This is Noel. Noel has been worrying about language and perception. He loves Thelma. This is Thelma. But like I say, he worries. He asks himself, does Thelma really understand him? For instance, yesterday, Noel told Thelma that he went for a drink after work. He can't be sure what Thelma saw when he spoke. She might have seen this, or this, or possibly even this. He knows this is only a small thing, but what if every small thing is very slightly misrepresented in Thelma's mind? How can he be sure that the Noel Thelma thinks she knows is the real him, and not just a version of Noel which she mistakenly believes is him? This gives Noel a headache. He goes for a lie down, and that's when he has his big idea. The only way to make sure that Thelma really understands him is to accompany his conversations with a slideshow. Years ago, this would have been impractical, if not wholly impossible. Noel would have had to drag an overhead projector with him everywhere he went, drawing on pieces of transparent paper. And where would he plug it in? But now there are smartphones and tablets, and with a bit of preparation, Noel can give Thelma a clear presentation of his thoughts and make sure she gets him completely. Noel once read an article in a glossy woman's magazine that told him communication was the #1 key to a successful relationship. He doesn't usually read women's magazines, but he was in a doctor's waiting room, and the only other reading material was a Christmas edition of The People's Friend. This is exactly the kind of detail he is now glad to be able to explain in his slideshows. Noel finds he doesn't need a slideshow for every conversation. Language is sufficient for everyday exchanges, such as asking Thelma to pass the tomato sauce, or deciding whether to watch another episode of Game of Thrones. But he makes them anyway, because he likes the drawing. The presentations come onto their own, however, when Noel wants to convey experiences he has had when he and Thelma are apart. When he's at work, for instance, or asleep. Dreams are so much easier to explain in PowerPoint. Usually, when he shows Thelma his presentations, she looks at the screen, nods, and then carries on with whatever she's doing. Noel relaxes then. He knows he's been understood. One day, Noel is telling Thelma about a conversation he had with his boss, who had belittled him in front of some colleagues. "It makes me really angry," he says. She stops him, points at the screen. "Is that your anger?" He says that it is. "Oh," she says. "What?" "Nothing. It's just that my anger is more..." She makes a quick, jagged motion with her finger. "Are you sure it's not humiliation?" Noel is stung. "I own my own feelings," he says, which is something else he picked up from the glossy magazine. Thelma considers the drawing. "The art belongs to the viewer," she says eventually. "And I say it's humiliation." Noel had forgotten that Thelma was once an art history student. After that, every time he shows Thelma a slideshow, she takes a critical perspective. "That looks more like tea than coffee," she says. "Or I don't think ambivalence is quite that bulbous." One day, Noel decides enough is enough. "This isn't working," he tells Thelma. "Why not?" "I just don't love you," he says. "Not like I thought." "Draw me a picture." So he does. It's his masterpiece, a complex diagram of the human heart and its fickle persuasions. He shows it to Thelma. She points to a small squiggle on the bottom right-hand corner. This makes it look like you do love me." "Well, I don't," Noel says. "But look." He looks, and sure enough, there is a bit of doubt in that squiggle, a sort of perplexed affection. "Draw it again," she says. "Maybe you'll get it right this time." Noel draws it again. Thelma looks, then points to the O of the over, where a stray pencil stroke has turned into a child's balloon. Noel can see what she means. Noel draws it every day now. Sometimes it looks like he's falling more in love with Thelma. Sometimes it seems like he hates her. In one, he accidentally asked her to marry him. He's still trying to draw the feeling that he wants to call it off. He thinks he might have cracked it. But of course, Thelma might see it differently.